They played a 13-minute piece to kick off the proceedings yesterday. I want to show you guys a small clip.
And I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down. We're going to walk down to the Capitol.
Yeah. Let's take the Capitol. Take the Capitol. Let's take the Capitol. We are going to the Capitol, where our problems are. It's that direction.
That video was played by the House Democrats. Our first guest says that the Democrats used some pretty deceptive editing in that video to explain the president's son, Donald Trump Jr. Don, welcome back to the show.
How's it going, guys?
Good. That video was clearly not in context. Explain what they left out.
Well, they left out the major part of my father's speech when he said the words peacefully. You know, they don't like to include those kind of things because the facts tend to elude the Democrats. And when you have a mainstream media complex that's willing to carry their water for them, Sean, they will allow them to get away with it. They will pretend as though it didn't exist, even though it's literally part of the same sentence. You have seen this play out yourself in real life. Yeah. They do it all the time. It doesn't matter, right? Today, you heard the impeachment managers. Breitbart did a great article on it. They have a real hard time with the words that my father used when he said, "We got to fight like hell for America." Yeah. The only problem is impeachment manager Jamie Raskin has numerous tweets out there saying exactly that, fight like hell. So does, flatulent, Eric Swalwell. He has that out there, exactly the same thing. So does, serial, outrage individual Ted Lieu. Fight like hell. If they wanted to impeach every member of Congress who ever used the word fight like hell in a stump speech, there would be no one left in D.C., which may be a great start, but I have a feeling they're only going to prosecute it one way.
Yeah, it's a dangerous slope to go down for that to be your standard. The House impeachment managers just about an hour ago showed this violent surveillance footage that is new, showing Capitol rioters, some of their actions. But, Don, they keep showing the actions of the mob, which we have all said were horrific and not okay. But they're not making the case of how this directly ties back to your father. Does that bother you?
Well, they're not making that case because it doesn't. Right? By that logic, we would take the last 10 months and you would take the $1 billion worth of damage in looting, in rioting, in arson, in murder that took place across the country with the BLM riots and the Antifa riots, and you have the words of Kamala Harris, you have the actions of their campaigns bailing out criminals, you have the words of Maxine Waters. You'll get up in their face. Nancy Pelosi, everyone. Again, they only want to have sort of selective memory as it relates to these things. We've all denounced what happened on January 6th. No one hasn't, okay? That doesn't mean that then by their rules that they would be absolved of 10 months of January 6th that happened across the entire country, right? Federal buildings were stormed. You saw that during, I guess it was during the Ginsburg stuff. You had stuff that happened during Kavanaugh. You had everything else, all insurrected by the Democrats and by their rhetoric on TV, yet that doesn't seem to be a problem. And I'm not saying it should be, frankly. I don't think that every time that someone says something, we should be able to tie back irresponsible actions of a couple lunatic players and say we got to blame the person saying it. But why is it that the Democrats are allowing that? Why is it that they're pushing it? Why is the media okay with having that singular standard for one individual and a different standard for everyone else? It's ridiculous.
It is. It's weird. So when you watch these other media channels, which I hope people don't, you hear the anchors say, Republicans engage in whataboutism. They keep talking about this, and they're right. Because to your point, Don, the Democrats say the same thing. They face no consequences. They face no repercussions. And yet they go, but when Donald Trump says something, it's totally different because that must have incited somebody. When they did it, well, we can't talk about that because that's out of bounds.
Yeah, well, what was it last week? There was that article where someone jokingly put up a tweet that was like verbatim. It was like Andrew Cuomo or Maxine Waters verbatim, but they said it came from a Republican. Now, all of a sudden, there was outrage. But when it was the Democrat saying it weeks before, It wasn't. Once they found out, it was actually a verbatim quote of the other side. They just wanted to see if it was going to be a proportional reaction. Of course, we understood what the answer was going to be. All of a sudden, it wasn't an issue anymore. That's the insanity that we're dealing with. We're not on a level playing field. We're not talking about fairness. And frankly, if we want to talk about everything, you have 44 Republicans already saying that this is an unconstitutional hearing. That means it's dead on arrival. And yet, in the midst of a pandemic, Sean, in the middle of a pandemic where they're saying hundreds of thousands of people are dying and they're on TV, this is their focus because each one of them wants a little bit of airtime. They get a little airtime. They'll make a clip of that and they'll send it to their email list, and then they'll try to get donations based on it. This is not about impeaching Donald Trump. It's about preventing him from running ever again. That it is about, because they want to make sure that no one will ever challenge their elitism and their supremacy in U.S. government.
That's right. No, they've silenced him on social media. They're trying to prevent him politically. You're absolutely right. Don, please stick around. We're going to continue this discussion with you right after the break.
I rise today, Mr. Speaker, to call for the impeachment of the President of the United States of America.
I continue to say, impeach him! Impeach 45! Impeach 45!
So we're calling upon the House to begin impeachment hearings immediately.
On the impeachment of Donald Trump, would you vote yes or no?
I would vote yes. I would vote to impeach.
Don, that was more than 3 years ago. Not to mention the fact that when we played clips yesterday, we showed the media before he was sworn into office talking about this. This has been an obsession of the media and the Democrats to get your dad before he was even elected.
100%. I mean, I think the Washington Post did the original one, the case for impeachment. It was about 20 minutes before the inauguration. He hadn't even been in there. And that's the reality, Sean. I mean, the way I like to liken Donald Trump's sort of rise in politics, it's actually very similar to what we've seen in the news in the last 2 weeks, which is what went on in GameStop, right? You have GameStop, you have Robinhood, you have something designed to help the little guy. You could buy a fraction of a share. Oh, wait. They're taking on the institutions. They're taking on the establishment. Oh, wait. So you're allowed to play, Sean, until you actually start winning.
That's right.
You know, if you're the schmuck and you're putting in the ante and you're losing your money every time, they love you to keep playing the game. Okay? They wanted Donald Trump to do that, right? Donald Trump had the big balance sheet, but he would never be considered part of the elite because they don't want that. They want the money. They don't want anything else to do with it. And it's just like what we saw play out there. The second the little guy starts actually winning, that's when you change the rules.
100%.
That's when you get a different playbook thrown at you. That's when all the knives came out. So Donald Trump was wonderful early on. Let's give him all sorts of free press because he's the guy we can beat. There's no way. Once he gets in, it's not a referendum on their incompetence over decades. It has nothing to do with that. It's just somehow about Donald Trump. All the knives have to come out. We must prevent him from ever doing this again. And more importantly, we got to do these kind of sham impeachments now when he's not even in office anymore to scare others who have been successful in life from ever entering this field. We want the mediocre losers that have been running the government into the ground for decades. We want them to be there because we can control them, we can control the money, and it's a big, happy family in Washington, D.C. The only problem is that's done nothing for the American people for the last few decades. That's why they went after Donald Trump so hard, and it's why they continue to go after Donald Trump, because they want to make sure there's never another Donald Trump.
Yeah.
You know, we have seen several GOP senators support, side with the Democrats yesterday. Do you feel like you are getting enough support, your father's getting enough support from the GOP backing him against this impeachment right now?
Well, listen, I think you see that from the weaklings, you know, the rhinos. I mean, basically, all of the people that gave you Donald Trump are the people that in the GOP that want to take out Donald Trump. I mean, all of the people that let down, you know, their constituents, whether it's, you know, Romney with his failed elections just because he was too afraid to take on the press rather than continue to fight. And I know, again, we have to make very clear in 2021 that I don't mean that in the sort of sense of a campaign fight. I mean it in the sense of a campaign fight, not a physical fight. But had Romney chosen to actually engage, he could have won that election, but he didn't because he would rather be loved by the media or was too afraid of the media. to roll over and die, and that's exactly what they wanted. He was too weak. He had his chance. Okay? The people of Utah aren't thrilled with him doing that. He's not representing the people. He's upset that Donald Trump did what Mitt Romney never could. You know, Ben Sass, give me a break. Rhino, you saw this in the last election cycle with a bunch of senators that they didn't even run again. Okay, but they're made heroes in the media, but they couldn't get elected dog catcher in their hometown. It's like Liz Cheney, right? Liz Cheney, well, we got to protect Liz. Why? What'd she do? She's got a 10% approval rate in Wyoming, right? She represents everything that the GOP and the GOP voters that Donald Trump brought into the party, unprecedented new numbers, everything that they hate. Endless wars, establishment nonsense, you know, that she's like the party of the old GOP. That's not the party that Donald Trump created. Those aren't the people that showed up for him in record numbers. That's exactly what they've been fighting against. And yet, you know, the establishment will protect them because they have no idea what the people actually want. And I say this, I said it last night on Hannity. I mean, I understand the irony. I'm the son of a billionaire from Manhattan, and I have a better understanding of what the people in like middle America want from their representatives than the freaking representatives that are there supposedly representing them in Congress. I mean, think of how insane that is. And yet it's true. And we'll keep making the same mistakes over and over again if you have those people in office and you elect them into positions of leadership and otherwise. We have to learn from our mistakes of the past. We have to accept what is reality. We should be embracing so many of the new minority voters that came into the Republican Party to vote for Donald Trump, and most importantly, embracing the blue-collar working-class Americans that Donald Trump fought so hard for. Not doing exactly the opposite, not rolling over and letting the Democrats push through their radical leftist agenda. You've seen what they've gone on. I wrote a book about it. Liberal privilege. Turns out all of the things that I said they were going to do, that no, he's not that radical. Oh, now he is. Oh, that's great. The union should have figured that out a little bit earlier, but that's not what they do because they've been on the dole, like the rest of D.C., for generations.
Hey, Don, you brought this up. I was asked on an Instagram Q&A today about what the Trump children might do politically. You are probably hands down, and I say probably to be nice to Ivanka and Eric, but you are probably hands down the top surrogate, the top choice and desire of every Republican group and people. I've seen you at rallies. People mob you. What does Donald Trump Jr. want to do going into the next couple election cycles?
You know, honestly, I want to help put people in positions of power that will actually represent their people, that will do what they say they're going to do in their stump speeches, that will go out there and fight for the American working class, that will fight against China and their attempts to take over the world, that aren't just going to listen to the woke globalists. Like, I want pragmatic, common sense people out there. And, you know, honestly, I guess because there's so few people in the Republican Party really willing to engage, that way, I guess it created a window for me. So I'm going to stay very vocal, and I'm going to be out there, and I'm going to make sure that we try to do whatever we can to help the guys that are awesome and get rid of the guys that suck.
Will we see a Donald Trump Jr. on a ballot?
Yeah, well, we'll see. I haven't gotten that far yet. Honestly, I think I can do a lot more, not necessarily running. So I have no intention of running right now. I want to make sure that we get this party and fix it to the way that Donald Trump saw it, because that's what's going to be best for America, for our families, for our children, and for the working class people that we want to represent. Not the elite, the working class. Okay.
Donald Trump Jr., I know we can see your name on that book, Liberal Privilege. It's a fantastic read. Thank you for being with us and sharing with us your thoughts on this sham impeachment process that's going down. Look forward to seeing you soon.
See you later, guys. Thank you.
Hi, Emma Reckenberg here. If you like this video, there's a whole lot more to see on Newsmax TV. You can watch for free right here on our YouTube live stream and be the first one here each time our experts break down real news. Just hit that subscribe button, ring the bell icon, and stay with us on America's fastest growing cable news channel, Newsmax TV.